Hello, my name's Chris, and welcome back to part 3, I guess, in this video series, if I haven't lost count. And basically, I want to take some time here to walk through some concepts. I'm kind of a really big concept guy, and I think that if one was to program something, if they understand the concept of how things work, it may make easier sense. So let me talk to you a little bit about using the AOIs and how they work. So in basically the manual that we have described here, we've given you several different options of connecting to the sign. Let's start with just some connection basics here. So the most obvious way, or the easiest way, would be what we call a single sign connection. And in this case, you would have a sign which you could call a master sign that would have an HMS Anybus communicator embedded in the sign. So in this case, you would just only need to pull a Cat5 cable to this device, and then internally, basically, this HMS device is connected serially to the sign. So this would only require one IP address and also only one Ethernet connection here. So this little Ethernet connection here, this would be one sign connection here to the sign. Okay. So then another way of doing this would be to, if your signs are, I guess depending on what ruling you're from, but if you go with the ruling that you don't like to have your RS-232 devices any greater than 50 feet, in some cases you can probably go 100 feet depending on proper shielding and whatnot. But let's just say, we'll just use a safe rule of thumb and say that you want to connect multiple signs less than 50 feet apart. In this case, you would have one sign that would have the Anybus communicator, that would have one IP address, and in the back of the sign there's actually a repeater port on here. So we're allowed to basically connect a repeater cable between this sign to that sign. And in the second sign here, this will be sign address 02. It does not require an Anybus HMS device. And then you could link multiple signs together, and then in the firmware protocol you would basically assign this as address 02, 03, and 04 on your sign connection. If you had signs that were more than 50 feet apart, then you'd be better off basically installing an HMS communicator device inside each of the signs, and that's because you can transmit over Ethernet IP over long distances. And so this would be a setup here. Now in this case, when you have multiple sign connections, you're basically going to have 3 Ethernet connections. So in this case, you're under Ethernet here, you'll have 3 of these, one for each of the master signs that would be on your factory floor. So now that we have a basic understanding of the connection options that are available and how that they would work, let's dig into the AOIs themselves. Okay, so now that we've got an understanding of conceptually how we have options to connect our signs, let me describe to you what I have here in this video series. In front of us, basically, we have 2 signs. We have an EDV 111 series, that's a 32 row by 128 LED array, and that's the top sign, and that is connected to address 01. Which is directly connected to the Ethernet IP module. And then out the back of the 4-line display, we have daisy chained to the smaller sign, which is a 16 row by 128 LED matrix array, and it is just mapped or basically connected together via an RS-232 cable. And we have went into the firmware or the software and set this sign address to 02. And so that way we can only have one IP address coming in here, and we can talk to either one of these signs depending on how we address those in our AOI instructions.